Hello Year 8 and welcome to today's cooking session. Today's one is going to be recorded on video and you're going to have to follow along and fill out the recipe and nutritional information as we're going. So I'm going to go through the ingredients, preparation techniques and cooking techniques, as well as highlighting some safety points along the way. So the recipe we're going to be cooking today is a pea and zucchini soup with feta and olive oil and some sourdough. So it's a nice light meal that can either be had as an entree or as a main meal, depending on portion size. So get ready. So for this recipe you're going to need the following ingredients: 500 grams of frozen peas, 1 bowl of garlic, about 7 small to medium zucchinis, some Greek style feta, some extra virgin olive oil, a baguette or a loaf of sourdough, and either some vegetable stock powder or just some vegetable stock in liquid form. You're also going to need the following kitchen utensils: a sharp kitchen knife, a large cooking pot with a lid, a stick blender or a soup blender, and a trusty wooden spoon. To prepare the zucchinis, chop off the top and the bottom and discard those. Then we're going to chop the zucchini up into 1.5 to 2 centimeter long slices. And we're going to repeat that for all of the zucchinis. Once you've chopped those, put them to the side. Defrost your peas by putting them into a microwave safe container and putting them in the microwave until they have defrosted. Prepare the garlic by using the flat side of the knife to press down on it and take the skin off. Cleaning up as you go. Prepare 1 litre of vegetable stock. So this could either come in a container that you've already bought, that's 1 litre, or in this instance I'm using powdered vegetable stock. And the instructions for this is 1 teaspoon for every 250 mils. So because we want a litre, I'm going to use 4 teaspoons in here. And we're going to mix it in a large container. It's good to use a good vegetable stock as well. And we're going to mix that with 1 litre of hot water. And we're just going to give that a quick stir in to make sure it's all combined. So once we've done all the preparation with the zucchini, pea, garlic and vegetable stock, we're ready to start cooking. So let's get cracking. Okay, so now we're ready to start cooking. So what we need to do is have our stove on a medium heat. We don't want it too high because we don't want to burn anything, but it still does need to be hot enough to cook. So once that's up to temperature, we're going to bring our cooking pot, put it on the stove, and give it a second just to heat up. We're also going to add a splash of olive oil. And we're going to give that a second to heat up. So a part of a successful cook is to have all your ingredients ready. So just off camera here, I've got my zucchini, my garlic, and my peas, which have been now defrosted. Alright, so we've got a nice amount of heat in here. So the first thing we're going to do is grab our whole garlic clove. So we've got an entire bulb of garlic that we've taken the skin off. And what we're going to do is put them in here and give them a light fry for about 3 minutes. So we want to add some golden colour, but we don't want to burn them. And we're just going to move them around gently with our wooden spoon. Okay, so that's been 3 minutes now. The garlic's become a lot softer, it's very fragrant, and it's taken on a slightly golden colour. So before that cooks any further, what we're going to do is add our zucchini in. And with the zucchini, it's the same kind of thing. We're going to go 3 minutes, and the aim here is not to cook them until they're completely cooked, but just to give them a little bit of colour and get them a little bit softer. Okay, so the zucchini has been cooking for 3 minutes. It's much softer and there's a little bit of colour on it. So what we're going to do now is add 500 mils or 2 cups of water, and then we can add our vegetable stock as well. So we'll add our 1 litre of vegetable stock. And what we're going to do is turn that up to high. We're going to put the lid on halfway just so it keeps some heat in but it still lets some steam escape. And then we're going to cook the contents at a low boil for 7 minutes. So it's been 7 minutes now. So what I'm going to do is give it a final little stir. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit. And we're going to add our next ingredient, which is the 500 grams of frozen peas, which have now been defrosted and are about room temperature. So you don't want them too hot, but you don't want them frozen either. So we'll just add those in. Give that a stir, and we're going to cook that for another 2 minutes. And if the heat isn't up high enough, if you lose the boil completely, You can just turn it up a little bit as well. But the whole point of putting the peas in is to kind of get them up to the same temperature as everything else in the pan. We're not trying to cook the life out of them. We're just trying to get them warmed through. So 2 minutes. So I have been a bit tricky here, and this is going to test who watched the whole thing, the whole video, or who just watched the start. So there's another ingredient that I haven't added to this soup yet. It's a very important ingredient, kind of makes the dish. So the ingredient is basil. So what the recipe calls for is 50 grams of either fresh or frozen basil. So in this case I've just got some frozen chopped basil, and after the peas have been cooking for 2 minutes, which is pretty soon, we're going to add the basil and just cook it for another minute until that's kind of softened and incorporated. So that's been 2 minutes and it's nice and warm. So what we're going to do is add our 50 grams of chopped basil. Okay. And because the basil was frozen in this case, I'm just going to give it an extra kind of minute to make sure all the basil has defrosted and has come up to temperature with the rest of the soup. And we'll just give that a stir through for about a minute or two. Okay, so the basil's been in there for about 2 minutes now. It's nice and warm. The soup's sort of coming up to a boil again, so I think it's about time to take it off the heat. And now is the time to actually turn it into a soup. So if you can see in here, I'm not sure if you can get the colours, but it's all nice and green. You've got different shades of green in there. It's going to be very, very tasty. So, if you're doing this at home with a stick blender, please make sure you've got your parents' supervision. They're not incredibly dangerous, but they can be if you don't know what you're doing, and they can make a big mess. So what we're going to do is put it in and give it a blend. So I think that's mostly done. What I'm going to do is very, very quickly, I'm just going to go through with my spoon, make sure there's no large chunks of zucchini or pea. The whole point is to make this a really nice kind of creamy, smooth texture. So, you know, you can make it more rustic. If you want to leave some chunks in there, you can do it that way. But I find it's much nicer as a very smooth and creamy kind of soup. And because of the ratio to kind of stock and water to the solids, it's just naturally creamy. We don't have to add any cream or anything like that. So I'm just going to give it one more little blast with the stick blender, and then we'll get ready to serve. Okay, so the soup is nicely blended. So what is left now is to plate it and make it look very appetizing. So let's do that. So we've finished cooking the soup. It's time to plate the dish to make it look really tasty and appetizing. So what we're going to do is got our plate. So with the baguette, I've cut it into some nicely presented little slices and I've toasted them really quickly. So there they are there. So we're just presenting them in a nicely kind of stacked way. We're then going to use a ladle to take some of the soup out and put it into a nice bowl. So there we go. We're going to take some of the feta, so just a little small amount here, and we're going to just crumble some into the center of the soup. So not too much. Then we're going to take our extra virgin olive oil. We're going to add just a little to the soup. And we're going to add just a tiny drizzle on top of the bread as well. And finally, just a crack of pepper over the top. There you have it, zucchini, pea and basil soup with feta and some toasted sourdough. So if you're making it at home, enjoy, and don't forget to fill out the recipe. See you next time.